saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it, that it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher. Honest,
Forceful,
trusting,
brilliant,
strong.
and adventurous.
And this is Crusher Convo.
And welcome to Crusher Convo, where we crush the conversation one episode at a time. Tonight, we celebrate the Cerritos crew as we discuss the final episode of Star Trek Lower Decks and my Season 2 finale. And with me today to share the laughs and maybe a few tears, another amazing podcaster, Trekkie, and friend, Marcy!
Yay!
Yay!
Lower Decks!
Lower Decks! Lower Decks! My apologies for giving you the wrong time.
That's all right. I'm here. I made it.
You made it. She
Just
is a
in
trooper.
time.
I just texted her. I was like, I'm so sorry. You're like, oh, I'll be on. I'm like, please take your time. I apologize to those, like, everyone knows I've been sick. So for any reason you see this pretty lady and I'm on mute, I am probably coughing a lung out and or needing to blow my nose, and that's not appropriate. So luckily for me, I have Marcy, who is a pro and will take over.
I can just talk the night away if needed.
Sure can. Oh, we already have Captain's Quadrant here. He says he knows how that is because I said I was going live soon. 10 minutes late, but it's fine. That's perfect.
I mean, under 15 minutes, so
That's
feels
goals.
pretty good.
As everyone can see, we are dressed in our festive gear because next week is Christmas. So I got my meowy Christmas hat and my Catmas, and then of course I have my Merry Christmas right up there. I had to throw in some Star Trek, of course, but you know.
I don't know why you didn't just like lead with the Crusher wearing a Santa
I
hat.
know, but it's just I'm a little cold, and then this is cats, and I don't know. I just felt like I was in the mood. But I have Crusher close to me, so. But this is, as I said, this is Marcy. She is a fellow podcaster, part of Green Shirt and Idle Ride podcast, excuse me. And she has been on the show before, so I'm super excited to be talking this final episode. One thing I want to ask you, though, what is it about Lower Decks that you loved so much?
Well, I'm a big fan of Rick and Morty, and I feel like I love that style of cartoon. And so when Lower Decks came out, I was attracted to it because it had that kind of humor, just wasn't as dark as Rick and Morty, which was nice because there's some dark stuff in that cartoon. And I feel like all the new Trek that had come out, Disco and some of the other shows, Picard, they have some pretty dark undertones. So to have this like really light, fun, but take Star Trek seriously show was such a breath of fresh air. And I loved it. I loved the humor. I love that they had these like really deep cuts to like old TNG episodes. Like there was some stuff I was like, damn, if you hadn't like watched TNG and analyzed it like I did in Green Shirt, like I don't even know if 90% of the people would catch some of those references. So
Right?
it's pretty awesome in that way.
I know it's funny because we dissect these episodes, especially the Next Generation. So I'm watching, I'm
Mhm.
like, that's from that episode, you know,
Yeah,
and it's like such a
exactly.
minor little thing that you just didn't
Exactly.
realize. I was like, wow, they went there.
You know the showrunners have to love Star Trek to make this show because
Yeah.
of all of that extra stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Mike McMahon is such a huge fan, you know, and you could tell when you're watching this. Captain Squadron said, ha, dressed to the nines. We sure are. Challenge. I gave Marcy the challenge. I was like, be festive and challenge accepted. I think we did pretty well. We have Rashid over on Instagram. He says, hello. He says, Gates McFadden is coming to the London Comic Con in March after a 10-year absence of the UK. So yay. I think he's going to be able to see Gates. And then he says, get well soon, Jesse. Thank you. And happy holidays to us both. Yeah, it's been a rough week for me. I was almost like, I don't know if I could do this. But I was like, no, I could do this.
Yeah.
I can hang in there.
Good. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. I'm afraid, though, that you're going to make me laugh to the point that I'm going to start coughing and I'm going to be maybe pass out. I don't know. If that's the way I'm going to go, it's a good way to go, I guess. So typically I usually will do a clip of the episode first, but I'm going to do that last. So I guess we could just jump right in. And of course, the episode started with Klingons, which is not my favorite, but I do enjoy. Is it Maya and Maylor, right? Is that how I think?
Mock, I think, and Maylor.
Something like that. It's MA''AH.
But they say it like it's a K at the end. So
I know. It's the whole Klingon dialect.
Subtitles make it like how you're saying it, but every time they say it, I'm like, mock or something.
Mock, yeah. Larry Nemechek says it very well. He did my episode of The Farm where and he was pronouncing it correctly, and I just let him do it. So where's Larry? I need Larry right now.
Eminem, that's what we can call him from now on. Eminem.
Honestly, I loved Maylor before, but I really loved it.
Yeah, the Surfer Bro Klingon. But it opens with Relga.
It does. Which she gave me Duras sister vibes.
Oh, yes. And I have kind of a her Pomeranian Targ. So I have some Klingon that I wrote down, and maybe people in the comments can try to figure out what this Klingon is, and I'm going to say it really poorly. Okay. But this is about this Targ. Roch Pomarg. So if you can figure out what I'm trying to say with that. But that little Pomarg is like the fucking cutest little shit. And he's constantly biting on Relga's arm, and she's just completely ignoring it. It's so cute.
Yeah. Reminds me of my daughter's cat, actually, Erilyn. She thinks you're gonna pet her, and then she's like, nope, I'm gonna bite you instead. It's like, thank you. So I should call her what did you call it? A Pomarg?
Pomarg.
Pomarg. Okay. That's perfect. But the thing it was funny because when I saw Relga, I was like, why are they showing these Klingons? And then she's all like, well, they, killed my brothers were killed. And I was like, oh, she must be the sister of the brothers. Because I knew these brothers, Maya and Maylor. Forgive me for butchering his name. But
Eminem,
because I knew they were going to be in the episode. I was like, oh, so this is a vengeance thing, but how are they going to play into this episode while they're trying to do these dimensional rifts? So it was a very nice, and it's a typical TNG thing, right? Where, okay, they got to go do something, and then something else happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that always happens where it's like, oh my gosh, we have this crisis, and Picard's like, but now I have to deal with this, right? And so it had that same setup, the B plot. But what was interesting is because the A and the B were kind of together.
Yeah, I had a little issue with the flow of this episode, but because it's the series finale, I'm gonna give it a pass. But it felt like there was a lot of stuff happening, action wise, and I think I would have liked a little bit more time spent doing some more one-on-one with each of the characters. But I get why they decided to go with the ship as a team as opposed to the individual relationships.
Did you think that the episode was too short?
Yes. I mean, that was a huge issue. I think because I don't feel why did they waste so much time with I mean, it was a super fun episode, last episode. Don't get me wrong. I loved the Harry Kims. I loved Lily. I loved all that stuff. But if we're going to do a 2-part episode, the Rutherford storyline, I was like, he is just so angry for the majority of the episode.
He is.
And I was like, I wished that we could have seen more of like not just Boimler and Mariner like being upbeat, but like some of the other characters. And they could have started that in like the first part of this episode, but we spent all that time with like Beard Boimler.
Right. Beard Boimler and then even the Klingons, right? Which I
Right.
know that they were trying to connect those two stories, but it almost was like not needed.
Yeah, like I'm not sure why they even had the Klingons in it, to be honest. Like I think they could have done a whole story with just like the riffs themselves are enough of an issue
Right.
that like with all this changing, they could have had the characters changing into like different versions of themselves and having to come to terms with different aspects of themselves. That would have been
Yeah.
like anyway. But we got Klingons.
But we got Klingons, which are not my favorite. Like, the Klingons are not something I care for. We have Eric, who was on my episode last week. He says, I agree with you, Marcy. I wish it had more time with the main characters. I'm gonna check Instagram real fast. Nope. All right. So, yeah, I was very surprised when I saw it was only 33 minutes or something. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, that's going to be a lot to unpack in 33 minutes. And I
For
typically
sure.
don't really pay attention to the normal episodes, and they're probably around 20 to 25 because they're animated. So this is going to be a little bit longer, but I don't know. I think I was expecting like a 40. Like I was all like big and bad and just like go for it. And so
Yeah, a little
I don't know.
extra time to the series finale.
Yeah, series finale. Yeah, not season, series. Like it's just like just give us a little more that we can. But let me see here. Oh, so of course, like you were mentioning how they were talking about the crew, they go back to where our, lower deckers are sitting at that booth, just how we saw it before he got Will's message. And yeah, Rutherford is angry, he is frustrated, he's like something's, the Cerritos is not connecting to my ocular implant, and he's just not himself. And then of
Yeah, and
course,
I was like, are we gonna do another Rutherford like going crazy with his implant thing here? But also before we skip, so I had a question for you. So one of the things that I love about Star Trek is that for whatever reason, I never skip the title sequence. And I was wondering if the people in the
okay.
comments or other people like in Instagram, do you skip the title or not skip the title? Because I feel like I never do with Star Trek, but with every other show, I feel like new shows, their title sequences are so boring and like abstract. But with Star Trek, you get like all this fun like ship stuff and in space. It has to do with
Uh-huh.
the show, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I usually skip it, except for the first episode, because Lower Decks always did like Easter eggs, right? So when you
Yeah,
would watch it, you would notice something different, and so you're like, okay, like they had the hand thing, so you're like, okay,
sure.
what TOS episode with the hand is we're gonna, and of course we got Ollie, and so but after that, it's just like I don't need to keep watching it, so I'm a skipper. I'm
Oh, that's
sorry.
interesting. That's all right. I mean, I think for me it's like the music is so inspiring that
Uh-huh.
and I just love seeing all like especially like in the animation animation is so fun and beautiful and then in all the television shows it's like I don't know, it's just really pretty and to hear those instrumentals just gets you in the mood for the Star Trek.
What's interesting is I don't skip TNG.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I had to think about that for a second. I don't skip TNG. I skip everything else, but not that. I don't know why. Because I don't know. It's mostly their names flashing on the screen.
Sure,
There's not
sure.
really
I mean,
anything
it's not
exciting.
like it's that interesting, but for, like, example, Strange New Worlds, it's just so beautiful when you watch their
Yeah,
opening, you know? So,
yeah. I
anyway,
think
we
it's
can move
Nami's
on.
music. No, that's fine. I think it's Nami who makes that really beautiful for Strange New Worlds. So of course, like I was saying, they got the message. He's freaking out. We have already angry Rutherford, um, and Enterprise is not going to make it. Well, first they go to Freeman and they're like, I know this sounds weird and everything, but you got to believe it. She's like, okay. And they're like, really? She's like, after all we've been through, why wouldn't I? And they're like, oh, that was way easier than I thought. I thought that was funny. And I was like, very big character growth for Captain Freeman.
Yeah, and I think her and Mariner, I mean, I think they're starting this, like, I think it's 3 times in this episode that she tells Mariner that she trusts her, which has been an overarching arc throughout all of the seasons of, like,
Oh, yeah.
Mariner and her mother learning to trust each other again after all these years of Mariner being a fuck up or whatever.
Well, even especially after Starbase 80.
Right, right.
Because Carol really, sorry, Mom, but fucked up a lot after that because, you know, she just didn't trust Mariner. Mariner had nothing to do with it. And so that was a whole arc in itself where
Sure.
Carol had to, like, I messed up. I need to make amends with my daughter. And that was a whole, you know, story, which I think put them in the right direction. I was actually thinking about when they were mentioning, because they were talking to the 3. One was the Admiral, that was Admiral Friedman. One in the middle, I guess he's a science officer, but he only had 3 pips, maybe? He wasn't a captain or anything. And then they had that other
Oh, you're talking about when they contact the High Council or whatever.
Yeah, for Starfleet. And they were like, the Enterprise isn't going to make it. And I had to think, I was like, okay, where's the Enterprise? What, you know how I am about dates. I was thinking about, I was like, Captain Worf is on the Enterprise E at this very second, and we didn't get it. That would have been a Klingon I wouldn't have minded to see. Man.
Yeah, that was kind of a funny, a whole thing where they're talking to the heads of Starfleet, and then they reveal that, you guys are going to have to take care of this. And it's such like a perfect Lower Decks moment when they say, we have to be the ones to take care of this, like, world-ending rift. Like, dang it. We didn't want to be part of this. And yeah, so that was like a really funny moment because it's a very Lower Decks moment where they don't actually want to take on the responsibility for this. Like, who would, truly?
Well, this is a huge responsibility, right? This isn't
right.
It's like the universe is going to be destroyed if you don't take care of this. And that's why I was like,
right.
It's an Enterprise job, not a Cerritos job. So they were hoping that the Enterprise would go and fix it like they always do. But, you know, Picard wasn't there. He's off with Michelle Rothy on another ship trying to do the Romulan relocation. So it was a Cerrito crew at this time.
It's funny that you make those connections between the dates of those 2 things happening, because I wouldn't have ever thought to like cross-check Picard versus Lower Decks. But
I cross-check of just like, where's Beverly at this point? What is going on? So, you know, it just happens. So, oh, there's my friend Danny from Comics and Everything. Hello. Go check her channel out. She just did a review about the new Superman trailer that just came out. So we are very excited about that. But so yeah, so like you said, the Cerritos is like, well, crap. Now we have to go save the universe. Like even all of them, like Tiana's cursing in the background. They're just like, we didn't sign up for this.
And I love that they're like blaming the Boimlers, like, because they're quantum entangled, and everybody's like, Boimler, god damn it. And he's like, it's not my fault.
It wasn't me. He was like, it's not me, it was Will. And they're like, why would you do this? I didn't, you know. Yeah, that was funny. It was like, why am I in trouble?
Yeah.
I guess it's like, is that a twin thing? Like if one twin gets in trouble, is the other one gonna get in trouble?
I mean, I guess at a certain point, like I've always had issue with the transporters, and like I'm like, your basically matter's getting destroyed and remade, so they would all be clones anyway. Like, and your original body is gone. So
it no longer exists. Yeah.
But that's just my headcanon anyway.
Right.
But I guess before the high command part was where the brothers get attacked by Relga.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And this
Yeah.
is where we see, because I mean, Maya, I guess I'll say it, is where he's just like, all right, we're gonna die today. And Maylor is like, no, we're not. Like, today is not a good day to die.
Yeah, that was a good line, a good Klingon line.
And then even when they had just been told by the High Council of Starfleet, and then all of a sudden he's all like, we seek asylum. He's like, we're looking for Mariner. And they're fighting. And she's like, I have no idea what's going on. She's like, what? And he's like, don't listen to him. I mean, I loved that whole sequence. That whole scene was funny. But I mean, at least Carol took the time to be like, okay, we got to figure this out. Yes, we got to go save the universe, but something else is clearly happening. And so she couldn't ignore it. It's a very Picard thing to do, where he can't ignore those moments for that reason.
Yeah, if somebody asks for asylum, you still have to take note of it, and she does, and she brings them on board, but continues on her other quest. But it is funny when she takes them into the room, and they're kind of like, again, Maylor, the surfer bro, he's just like so funny. He's like eating his snacks off in the corner, like, oh, are there
salty and
replicators
sweet.
in our room? That would be me. As long as you've got good treats.
I'll go anywhere, right? As long as you feed me, I'm fine. Now, kind of going, and this kind of all happens at the same time, because Relga shows up right after they have that meeting in the observation lounge, and then she's like, you have 2 fugitives, I want them, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but they seek asylum. And I don't know about you, but it was kind of obvious that Admiral Freeman message was off. And I was surprised. I was like, that was weird, I was like, all of a sudden he just popped up. They're gotta get rid of him. Boom, they're gone. And I'm all like, what the hell? I mean, I knew it came from her. And so it was kind of interesting how she was just like, oh, well, the Admiral says I have to return them, And so it was nice that even like Mariner and even Jack and all that stuff were just kind of like,
Well, I guess I just chalk it up to like she doesn't hang out with her husband all the time anymore, and her mind is on something else. So she's just like, okay, this is an easy out. I'll just give them back. Like, as much as they're friends of her daughter, like, this is not the time to care about like a couple of random Klingons that have just arrived on my ship. So
right. But I mean, it was good of Jack to. He was being a very good first officer too, because he's like, I knew you had to listen to this and you were going to follow orders, but as your first officer, I had to make sure that it took the time for you to understand that there was something weird going on. Now, Danny says, I just want to know if that stable portal at the end means that we're going to get or see him in live action again, or open the possibilities from our animated series. I think so. I wouldn't see why we wouldn't. All I care about is if we get even animated Beverly Crusher. I would love a Starbase 80 though.
Yeah.
Kind of a DS9 situation, right?
I mean, that's another problem I have with this episode, is that it doesn't feel like the end of the series. Like, the end of it, like, her speech kind of wraps it up, but like, there's this open portal, like you said, there's Station 80, like, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a new beginning. So what are they trying to new begin?
Yeah. What is the new beginning?
Yeah.
Eric says they should have had Maylor and Dr. Bigley Moo bonding over snacks. Aw.
I would have loved to see that.
That would have been awesome. I could see Maylor just like learning. He wants to know about like, oh, why is this salty? Why is this sweet?
There's actually a great episode of Strange New Worlds, the one where Spock, I can't remember the name of the episode, but Spock's parents are meeting his fiance's parents.
Yeah.
And there's like a scene because Pike is just like bringing in these snacks, and the father-in-law is like, ooh, it's so tasty. And then the mother is like, don't eat those. They don't taste like traditional Vulcan snacks. Anyway, if you
I-
want to see people sharing snacks, watch that episode.
I love the part though is when they started, I guess, arguing or something, and Pike just like slowly turns around.
Yeah, that was good. That was
That
good.
was so good. Anson did such a good job. I think one of the things though that I didn't like is that Freeman trusted Relga too quickly. She's like, in peace, I'm gonna give you the freaking shield, to help with the shielding and things like that. And I'm all like, she's already threatening to kill these Klingons. It doesn't seem like she's gonna give a crap about you, Carol. So why would you give her important data? I don't understand that. But like you said,
she's just trying to get the fuck out so she can go fix that issue. Like, hey, here's some good stuff. Let's get it there.
She's like, I got a timeline here. I got a deadline. Eric says charades. Yes, that was the episode. And then Danny says, that would have been good. I love the show. And I did like this season, but if I'm being honest, it's not my favorite season. The previous seasons really set a high bar. I was hoping for more. I think 4 really set a bar high because it really connected the whole Lower Decks aspect with Sito and having Wesley and her being a part of Star. That was a very high bar. And I think, in a sense, that almost could have been their series finale. Does that make sense? Because that was kind of that was his whole thing of why he made Lower Decks. He was basing it off that one episode. And so since he wrapped it of like, this is why Mariner is Mariner, that would have been now she's on to this new path. Do I hate season 5? No, I think they had a lot of great episodes and a lot of great scenes in season 5. But there was some missteps with a couple episodes where I was just like, like the Ollie episode, the whole Zeus granddaughter. I didn't care for it. And I'm a Greek fan. Like, I love Greek mythology. So.
Yeah, I think it's always weird when they try to mix magic and science. Like, that's kind of falling a little bit short because in essence, then you're just another like super being. You're not like a god. And so they're kind of trying to mix those two things, which is, can be done better, I think, in a cartoon than it can in like an actual show, live action show. But
I think we can kind of buy it more, it being in Lower Decks, than we did. It was on TOS.
Sure. Yeah.
Just saying.
For sure.
Let me see here. Trusted too quickly.
So then they get fired on by the Klingon ship.
They do. Now, because they have to start heading into that dimensional rift.
So they warp out. She does the warp
out. That's right.
Warp me.
Warp me. And I think I'm trying to remember after this point because I know they were getting chased, but there was a point.
So then they just land close to what I call the S wave, the Soliton wave area. And so Ransom's like, the readings are getting freaky. Everybody get ready for weird.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of slowly impulse power into that zone where the Soliton waves hit. And again, I feel like there's so much like technobabble in this episode. Again, it kind of takes away from the episode because I spent so much time trying to figure out like, what are the solitons? Like, no, now the like hull is made of some kind of thing that is affected also by the wave, and like there's all these different things coming at me when like all I care about is like, okay, this is like the series finale. Like I care about the emotions of the character, not about all this technobabble.
No, this was the ship porn section because the ship kept changing into different ships.
They needed to get to a place where they could do that. I get it, which is fine. Like I totally loved that, but it was just sort of like, oh, because I want to like hear what's being said and kind of understand it. And I think they didn't do a great job this episode of like they just kind of were shoehorning it all in to get to the action,
get to that part. Yeah. Especially because she ended up following him in and they didn't expect that. I thought, so I wrote this down. I went sailing barge when all of a sudden the Klingon ship, and then you just see the bodies floating out. I was like, holy crap.
Yes.
Dark.
So Cerritos turns into like the single nacelle ship, which I can't remember what it's called. I'm sure more nerdy nerds than me know that name of that ship. But and then the Klingons, like you said, turned into like a barge. And I was like, oh yeah, sometimes I forget how really like bloodthirsty the Star Trek show is. Sometimes you like don't see the deaths on screen, but this was like you literally just saw like dead Klingons just
Dead Klingons
floating
just
off into
floating out.
space. And you're like, okay, they're not holding anything back.
Nope, they were not. So Dave showed up. He says, hey, Crusher Convo, listening in. And then his body go floating away. And I just saw, I'm watching Enterprise. I'm on season 3, and it's on that whole Xindi storyline. And I think it's at, I can't remember. It was like Azari Prime or something like that. But there's a part where they were getting attacked by the Xindi, and one part of the ship got hit, and all you see is the bodies just blow out. I was
Yeah.
like, "Whoo, that was a bit much." Okay,
Yep.
that was what, 2002?
I mean, space is not kind. I mean, one little hole in a ship and like you're fucked. So, like one pulsar hits you. I mean, thankfully they have the tech now to like avoid that. But like as a human in our day and age going into space, like it's cool, but it's scary.
Oh, I mean, we saw it in Picard when Vatic and all of them got sucked out. And
Yep.
then she shattered. Dave did say they do embrace death, so they did die an honorable death. That is for sure.
True statement. Klingons, they're like as they're floating in space. You're so died an honorable death. Oh wait, I didn't get murdered by anything. I'm just freezing to death. Sorry,
just
not
freezing
going
to death.
Klingon heaven.
I like how the ship had turned into the Sovereign class, which is the Enterprise E, and then it also turned into the Galaxy class, which went to the D, and then it was also a Terran ship. And Shax is all like, "We have Terran, and we have all these like," and they're offline.
Yep.
He was so excited,
was
and then
a really funny scene. And like, I also like that they send Boimler, go to navigation. We need to make sure it stays online. And he goes down there, and all he's doing is like spraying down the dolphins. Like in my mind, I was like, he was actually going to be doing something, but he's just like spray support for the dolphins.
They had to go do their stuff, but they can't be out of the water for too long. Eric says pack lids are strong and space worthy. You know what? I think it was kind of a miss that we didn't get the pack lids one more time. As much as they're not like they were just funny on Lower Decks. I think they kind of should have been added into that. And of course, as they're trying to escape the Klingons, there was that one scene where Carol goes, "Why hasn't her ship changed?" And Tiana's all like, "It has. It's always this damn stupid bird."
Yeah. And I didn't realize how many of the Klingon bird of prey there's like the huge ones and the small ones, but they all look exactly the same.
They all look. I noticed that. I was like, "Why is her ship so ginormous?" And then it had tiny little birds around. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, I think there are actually I looked it up because I was like, what the hell? And I was like, I guess there's just a larger sized bird of prey. But
and they're all called bird of prey.
Yeah.
And of course, like you were saying, Boimler is over, watering down the belugas. And
they're belugas.
The belugas, yeah. And of course, Maya and Mariner he thinks that Mariner knows who Malar is because Malar is missing. They were going to take him over and they're like, we can't find him, right? And so, they start arguing and stuff. And what's Boimler's decision? Break. He's like, sorry, you're not listening. You're not understanding that Mariner has no idea what's going on. And I'm just going to just destroy this red pad, which I've been saying this whole season. This red pad has... I thought that it was going to do something bad, right? Because he was relying on it so much that he was changing his own history or his own future, I should say. And I thought that there was going to be a consequence to that. Because typically when you do change something in the past, it does change your future in a way. We saw it with even All Good Things. We saw
You're
that,
right.
Troy was the one that died, and Beverly was captain, and she was married to Picard, but they divorced, and all of these different things. But then, because he saved humanity and changed the future, then ended up being Data died and not Troy. And Picard and Beverly didn't get married, but they had a son. And so there was just these little, one little thing that you change is going to change the future. And so I thought that pad was going to be more of a central to the storyline than he just destroyed it. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like the whole episode is about like the crew has learned to trust each other. So like he reads on the pad that Becky Mariner was the one who hid one of the M's. And so then they're like, the captain's getting all freaked out, takes him to the bridge, and I think he breaks it in show of solidarity with Mariner. And I actually think it is kind of a cool moment because it has been so pivotal to his character for so long that you can tell it's like an addiction, right? To like look at this pad. He doesn't have to make decisions for himself. He can just decide, see what Bearded Boimler did and do that, and this is him actually like becoming his own person kind of. And I think that's a really important character thing to do, is to become your own person. Because what was it? Literally, one of my favorite lines was when Mariner at the very beginning of the episode says, "I can't believe you're basing I can't believe basing your personality on that thing actually worked. That beard looks good. I hate it.
Hate it."
And like the truth is that it did make him kind of a better person because it gave him confidence, but now he can have that confidence on his own,
Which I think even William was also showcasing that, because he was missing that piece of having hit a Mariner, right? Which why he was so excited to see that alternate Mariner come through. So that was, I guess, a little bit of a hint. I just thought there would be more consequences. I like how, yes, like it showed that he trusted Mariner in enough where he's like, I don't need this. I trust you, and you are what matter. But I just thought there would be more of a consequence instead of having to deal with the Klingons. Danny says, "Oh yes, big missed opportunity." She says, "I did." She says, "I did appreciate the Jalad, the truth uncovered. I appreciate the use of the Temerian language," which is what we find out that was not Admiral Freeman, right? Because when Jack sees them fighting, he's all like, what was it? Maya was going to, I guess, punch Boimler,
Mariner and Boiler,
yeah, and Jack stopped. He's like, "How are you so strong?" I can't remember. It was a gym reference, obviously, but he was like,
his muscles finally took like the first
5 seasons.
Yeah,
finally got there. But he was like, "I hid Maylor because," he's like, "I know something was wrong, and I needed to give you, Captain, the time to figure that out." And so it was funny because he's like, "Play the tape again, like something was wrong." And then of course that, Temerian is speaking in that language, which they did it so well. Like it was like, I could understand him.
Eric says high intensity training, I believe. Yes. That was like such a good line and such a good moment. Like they did put in some really funny little moments here of callbacks to all the characters, like main behavioral traits, I would say.
Yes. And even if we're going to talk about character growth, I think this was a huge character growth for Jack.
Oh yeah,
because we always saw him as that muscle man, I only care about my abs kind of guy. But in reality, like he said in a couple episodes before Upper Decks, I believe, he's playing stupid on purpose.
Yeah, it's a tool.
Like he's not actually dumb. It's a tool. He's like, I get shit done around here because I'm doing it this way, and they're going to do the opposite. It's reverse psychology. But he plays it well enough that they're like, but he gets shit done. And this was
I think the Mariner recognizes way before like anybody else does, except for maybe Freeman, who made him second in command, that there's more to him than just the pretty face and muscles. So
yeah. Over on Instagram, we have Janice joining us, CF, and Major Bell. Thank you guys for listening. And so again, it wasn't my favorite episode, but I was like, okay, because they realized they had to try and stop Brelga because she had that shield data that Freeman had given her, and so they were shooting at them. And it was Billups. He's like, I know who can stop her. And of course, here comes Ollie with her very flexible lightning bolt. And I'm like, was it needed? We could have eliminated a whole episode and this soul and done something totally different.
Yeah, like I think they did that to showcase her character one more time because she was in a single episode as like a main guest character, but I didn't care about her character. It's kind of like you, as like I wanted more time with our main folks. And so some of these little moments, like there's so much like back and forth between stuff, like I felt like it needed to have more focus. And I think it kind of was going all over the place with the action to like get in all the ships and do all the things.
Right.
And I was like, well, I want all of our lower decks people together. The moments that I really liked were those moments. So
yeah, and I think that was also the issue too that I was having, because we didn't get a lot except for one episode, which was the Upper Decks episode of the bridge crew. We didn't get a lot of Shax or Tiana or even Ransom and Freeman and all. And that's what I was missing. Even there was another episode where I was just like, oh, I really don't care for this. I can't remember the name of it. That's why I don't care for it. But like you were saying, we miss so many moments with our favorite characters because we had these filler episodes. I think because at that time, I don't think Mike McMahon knew that they had gotten canceled. I think if he did, I think they were told literally when they were up to like second or third episode to the end of the season.
Yeah.
So that threw off this whole thing.
Sure.
And I think he had to do a lot of rewrites for the final episode because he needed to wrap up certain
the storylines.
Yeah. And I think that was the problem.
So I did want to ask you a question, though, because there's one scene where we do get Tiana on the bridge, and she's the one that explains that all of the Klingon ships are all the same pretty much throughout the years. And I was going to say, because you love Crusher so much, I wonder if that like love translates to like often the doctors of the ships in other series, or if it's just you like Crusher particularly, because I tend to really like the doctor characters in the shows, particularly Tiana and Shax are so adorable, like, and funny together. But
I actually I'm more of a doctor person, so I love Tiana, I love Mbanga. I love like even Chapel, even though she's the nurse, but I love the sick bay medical team. Yeah. I loved Bashir. I love Phlox. Like I seem to, and the doctor, like I seem to really, and I don't mind McCoy. I don't mind Bones. So I think I'm definitely more doctor. It's just Crusher's just
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the answer is yes. It does translate over to the
it
other
does translate. And even I may, like say nice things about Pulaski. It's rare.
What?
But
get out of here. You're not allowed to be on this anymore. I'm taking over Crusher Convo. No,
Crusher Convo has been canceled. No, which is funny because there was a lot of Pulaski I didn't like. Don't get me wrong. But there was a couple of things where I was all like, yeah, Crusher would totally agree with that, because she was a doctor, and that's what I think.
Well, I'm a Data fan, and so Pulaski was such an asshole to Data that I know. Was like,
that's the biggest.
That's it.
That's my husband. My husband cannot stand Pulaski just for that reason because he loves Data. And I've said this story before, but on his 6th birthday was the season 3 premiere of Next Generation, and Crusher came back, and he went, it was the best birthday present ever. He's like, Data's friend is back. He was very excited. Danny says she has to go. It's dinner time. Great discussion. Thank you for joining us, Danny. Now, we're going on. I wrote down Klingons turned to prototypes because they lost that shield, right? Because Ollie went and covered their shield thing, and they ended up getting hit with the wave, and they turned into the prototypes that were proto-Klingons.
Proto-Klingon!
From Genesis.
They raged so hard that they threw a body of another Klingon through their windshield, basically, and blew up their ship.
Blew up.
So
and not even that, because, I mean, Maya was all like, he's like, oh, they're just full of rage. We're fine. Just leave them be. And this is where the Rutherford comes right at this too, right? Because it turned back into the Cerritos.
That's right.
And they're like, oh, great, they're back. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, wait, they are back. And I don't know what it was that clicked so quickly for Rutherford, but this is the part that made me cry. I started getting emotional at this part because all of a sudden he was all like, the Cerritos is what can do this. And he ripped off his implant and just started doing things. And I love how Livik was right there. He's like, I've never seen anyone do that so fast. And I love that it came from Livik because it wasn't this Livik anymore, right? They were like, Rutherford. Like all of a sudden it changed. It changed quickly. But I really loved how he just fell back in love with the Cerritos because he realized it was never the ship. He was relying too heavily on something else, which was the opposite of what his alternate self had done. His alternate self became basically a Borg.
Right.
Right? And in his sense, he's like, no, I need to be more human and not rely on those implants. And that was the part that I was just like, oh, I got emotional. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, this wasn't the part. I mean, it was definitely an emotional moment, but it was hard for me because the moment he like slid under that thing and was like looking at all those little like square programming cubes or whatever, and they're like, I've never seen anybody do it that fast. And I was like, I have data. Like, remember that scene where he's like,
yeah, that was in the Naked Now.
Naked Now, yeah. And like, oh man, that scene is seared into my brain forever. But it is a really good scene. You're right that like I have a very poor memory, and I'm glad that you mentioned like because he saw his Borg self and realized his Borg self was too unemotional, and so he's taking kind of the complete opposite track, which is totally fine. But it's also like that kind of was part of his character that they've totally eliminated was his connection to this technology. But that's all right. I mean, like I think it's a fine ending for his character, at least in the series.
I mean, he always had issues. And so, like you had said, that he had that ocular issue before where he had the red Rutherford versus him. Right. And then he relied on Badgie and, too much. And I think that's where I think he had to realize that, wait, it's not this. Like, I can do more with the ship and be one with the ship than without having to use these implants. And so I thought that in itself was a good way of finishing his story. And then, of course, they're like, okay, Klingons are gone and everything, but we're still stuck in that damn rift. It's like, wait, we still have a problem here. And, of course, it ends up being Maylor who saves the day with his dam.
Well, wait, we haven't even gotten to the part. So they're rushing through after Rutherford, and that's when we get my favorite scene with our good friends Tendi
and
T'Lyn. And so we're gonna do a little reenactment of the scene, and I'm playing Tendi. So I
gotta be logical.
Today's chaos has driven us apart, but that's when we need to be the most in sync.
Relinquish control, trust each other. Before we had to prove ourselves, now we unite as
Science Besties. that is where I got emotional. It was such like a good moment because this was like the one storyline I think they really like had fleshed out in that like earlier episode a little more, that they were competing against each other. And so to have them like unite together, and I love the women in Lower Decks. I think Lower Decks actually did a really good job of having more women than men as like the main characters, and then having the women just support each other and like, you know, pass the Bechdel test, like have a whole adventure on their own, you know, like things like that. So
Yeah. No, it was really good because they were believing, because when Maylor's like build a dam, they're like, huh? That's why they decided to do that whole our whole reenactment that we did. Hopefully I was logical enough. But they were like, no, it's gonna work. We have to do this. And of course, you know, we mentioned this backstage where that was very anime, where it did the split screen.
right.
Going in. Definitely. I mean, I got Pokemon vibes, if that's for sure. But then it worked, right? They were able to, but it didn't close the portal. It kept it permanently open. It was pretty. So
Yeah, I
and
was
I
a
think,
little confused by like what she even did. They don't even really tell you. Like an
yeah,
increased tachyon something or other. They kind of tell you in Boimler's log. But then again, like another thing kind of just left trailing, like, oh, she did it. Like, we don't know how, but it happened.
it worked. I kind of got season 2 Picard vibes with Borgatti. Bord, how do you say her name? Agnes's character.
Oh.
Um, where she became the Borg Queen, and she was now like managing that portal, right?
Mhm.
And this is kind of the same thing, but it's a different portal
I mean, it's not
of the
the
multiverse.
future. It's just
It's
like,
not the future, it's the
it's just,
multiverse.
yeah.
But I think, you know, but that's what they were saying, that we needed to have something that was low tech, and that's why they decided to move Starbase 80 over there, which that made sense. Like, remember how I was saying, like, the whole Gods and Angels episode with Ollie and all that stuff didn't make sense. It didn't need, but this made sense because this is where we got to see Starbase 80. We got to see Mariner deal with, you know, her trauma of being an 80. This was the full circle moment for Carol, because she was like, I'm not going to be there. And she ends up being there. But it made sense that this is what was supposed to happen, because Carol never paid attention to why she went to Starbase 80. She was just trying to not go to Starbase 80, not realizing what the consequences or what the reasonings were. So that I felt was like, okay, I liked that part of the story. I like how they kind of bookend this story in that sense. And Happy Bookworm actually says, I hate that it ended, but this was a great episode.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense that Starbase 80 goes there. And it's kind of like, it was a fun ending to it to have this like portal open. And I think, who was it? I think it was your friend that left from comics something, basically said, uh now I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
I mean, I could try and look for her comment if you want me to.
I'll go up.
This is not her favorite season. Is that the one?
The stable portal at the end means that we're going to get to see them in live action again, or open the possibilities of more animated series. So I think they're like trying to give more options to like the new generation of Star Trek. And,
Right.
you know, I don't know how you feel, but I'm not sure. Like, it's fun to have these multiverses, but it's also like, I think takes away from just like good storytelling. Like, do you have to have like 1,000 different versions of someone to like enjoy a series? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, but like, is this the only way we can tell stories, is time travel? And like, that's why I like Strange New Worlds, to be honest, because they just tell some of those like contained storylines.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody just needs like, let's have more. It's like like television on ADHD crack, you know?
I think with one thing that I could say that I could agree with, because I know so many people were just upset about this, and so was I, even though I was not there in the 90s watching these shows, is that this could be a good way to bring Jadzia back. And,
Mm.
I think this is kind of their way of like righting a wrong with certain things. But is it needed? No. Is it going to happen? Probably not. At least the option is open. So even let's say, this, like, let's the Starfleet Academy that's going to be coming out, right? And I know it's in the 32nd century, but let's say for whatever reason we could have a Jadzia, and it makes sense because of this particular episode, and bring her in.
I guess
It
I
doesn't.
just feel like I am an older Star Trek fan, not as old as
Yeah,
some. And I feel like just because you're nostalgic for something and you're upset about something that happened 20 fucking years ago, like, let's move on from that, okay? Like, you don't need to have Jadzia back. I'm sorry that they took her off the series, and let's have some new fresh characters. Let's like have some new interesting things that we see. Like the same thing with Star Wars. Like you don't need to see every old character come back. It's okay. Like live with that memory. That is more sweet than them
how many
fucking
more
up your old
Skywalkers do we
characters,
have?
you know? Like come on. Like let's fall in love with someone else. Just saying.
No, I mean, I can totally understand that, because we want to keep the franchise to continue telling different stories and not just retelling the same story just in a different way,
Yeah, like
you know.
Prodigy, a lot of people love Prodigy, and that's like a whole new like obviously it has Catherine Janeway in it, but like I think it's fun to bring the old characters in as like helping the new generation move on, but then let's
Mhm.
let the new generation move on. Like
Right. Let's
let's
the new next generation.
yeah, and I think that's like a great name for the episode because we have to let the younger generation of Star Trek fans have people that they can relate to. And I think that again, not to bring it back to Strange New Worlds, a lower deck episode, but I think Strange New Worlds is, even though it's older in time, in the timeline, is giving those kinds of characters to the new generation, people that others can connect with. And I think we need to do that. We need to upgrade it, but allow it to also have the same like utopian type, like hopeful feel. That is what makes Star Trek different from all the other shows out there. That's why we love it.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, like I said, the Carol Freeman is now on Starbase 80, and she has her husband with her, and Jack is now the captain. We no longer have Cyber Rutherford, and then of course, Mariner and Boimler are co first officers. And again, going back to Jack just being like, this is going to prove something, right? It's going to, as much as they were like, no, we don't want to be competing against each other. He's like, you got to trust me. This is going to work. And of course, we also saw with Rutherford about his feelings for Tendi, which I kind of felt was a little brushed aside. It was just kind of like mentioned for 2 seconds and then that was it. Which I know a lot of
Yeah.
people really liked the whole Tendi and Rutherford relationship, or hoping,
I
shipping.
definitely am on that ship. Like I am
Yeah,
Cindy
so,
and Rutherford, man. Like,
and I
and
thought,
she was blushing in other episodes with him. So, like, they kind of made it seem like Tindy was no longer interested in him, and he was just like feeling feelings that he wasn't used to. I don't know. I felt like there should have been more connection there.
yeah,
And it was just kind of like she's like, "Oh, okay, you're
yeah,
handsome, whatever," you know.
yeah. It didn't seem very, that felt very shoehorned in. They didn't need him to be all blushy and stuff if that was just going to be it for 2 seconds, right? They didn't
Yeah,
need to
they
really
should have
add
had
it.
like a actually, I feel like it would have been really cool if they had like just a one-on-one scene between Tendi and Rutherford. Like
Yeah,
cuz they have been science besties before. Lynn and
Right.
her were science besties, and to just have that moment of connection. It doesn't have to be romantic, but like, because I think they've been kind of falling apart again, falling away from each other in this
Yeah.
season. And to like, I feel like there should have been more connection as a team other than just like, we're sitting at the bar having drinks. Like,
Right. Yeah. I don't know. That just kind of felt off to me. But before we kind of wrap it up, I'm going to actually finally show the clip that I've been wanting to share. So here it is.
nice.
You know why Boimler's weird death-faking clone sent that cosmic wave at us? Because he knew we kick ass. And I'm not just talking about the 5 of us. The whole Cerritos crew is stacked with amazing officers. Yeah, there's a lot of ships in the fleet which are bigger, fancier. They have engineering sections that are attached to the main part of the ship. And honestly, those crews are way more professional. Hey, I should know. I've been kicked out of half of them. But this thing we do doesn't require perfection. We're explorers. We live for the unknown. You can't prepare for that. Nobody on the Cerritos is even close to perfect. We're a mishmash of people and various creatures that don't fit in anywhere else. But we're a family. That's why I love it here. We believe in the mission and in each other. My mom might be gone, but she handpicked this crew. Which is why I know we're gonna be okay. This isn't the end of a story, it's the beginning. We're gonna make her proud.
Wow, that's such a healthy way of looking at it.
Yeah. I did get mad and set my bed on fire.
Wait, what? Is it still burning?
Yeah, and I kicked a computer. But you know, that's all out of my system. I'm good. I think. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Tune in. Uh-oh.
And you know, I did the same thing when we watched the final season or the second season of Prodigy, because we don't know if it's final. We don't know what's going on. But I did that. You know, they showed the video. And got emotional, and it was all sweet. And I liked how this was the same thing, but then they had it crack that joke.
Yeah.
Just remember, this is still lower decks. Yeah, the bed's on fire. It's no big deal. I cannot tell you, I laughed so hard when I saw that damn candle. It's like, Mike McMahon, I know you wanted Gates, you wanted Beverly Crusher in your show. That was not the way to do it, but I will accept it.
Yeah, it was like a really good ending, and it's like a reminder of what Star Trek is about, is like your friends can be your family, and the creation of friends as family and people who can support you. And I've always been very attracted to that idea. I have lots of friends that I feel like are more family than my actual family. So I think this was a great kind of speech about that. And I think when I got emotional was actually when Mariner hugs her mom and is saying goodbye to her mom, and they say, I love you to each other. And it is a really poignant moment because of all the strife they had gone through together. And so I think it's a sweet ending, and it leaves it open, to be honest, to potentially having another season somewhere else. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, we'll see. I mean, they got 5 seasons, just like the majority of these new Trek shows have gotten. I think even Strange New Worlds might be heading in that direction. So, you know, I know. Though the rate it's going, it's still a couple of years. We're still fine. But yeah, I mean, I think it wrapped itself well. Like you said, that if this is the end, this is the end. But there is potential to have it open, which is exactly what Prodigy did, you know, because they're not sure if they're going to be renewed for a 3rd season. And so they were like, so let's end it, but not, you know, and see how it goes. But even Picard did that. Even though we knew it was only going to be 3 seasons, they still kept it open where there could be a legacy series if they wanted to down the road with Jack and Seven and Rafi. So, but yeah, I think now I'm actually going to go into the tricorder rating.
by Tricord.
So I got 21 votes, and we got 86% of 5 Cerritos strong. So people really enjoyed this episode. We got 5% for 4 Birds of Prey. We got 9%, though, of 3-dimensional rifts, and then no one said it was 1 or 2 ocular implants. What would you rate this as?
I might be in that 9%. Unfortunately. I feel like it's not like the worst of the worst, but it's not the best of the best of the Lower Decks episodes. I feel like they could have done a little bit better with really having us connect again to the Lower Decks crew and the main bridge crew and our team together, because I mean, that's what you want to see. And I think they were too focused on getting to the destination of this action filled episode as opposed to like taking the more emotional route, which, you know, I'm known to care more about that than like, cause that's why you're here, is for the characters. Right. And
Yeah.
like the action is cool. The funny is good, but like I want to see the relationships be renewed in a stronger way, and they did do that a little bit, but I felt like it was an okay episode, but not
It
my
was
favorite.
not the favorite. I want to give it a 4 Birds of Prey. Like I said, there was just a couple of things that I felt were just kind of shoehorned in that I don't think was needed. But overall, it's an episode that I enjoyed watching and I can watch again. And it doesn't fully close the chapter, but at least gives a decent ending for the characters that we enjoyed. But like I was telling, with Danny, that this wasn't really her favorite season, that there were stronger seasons before. And I think it's because they didn't know. They didn't know that they were going to be canceled. They didn't know that this was going to happen. And I think it definitely would have been different if they would have known it was their final season. Just like, we've had some issues with Picard season 3, but they knew that was the final season. And so that's why they were able to do the stories the way that they did. So I think that helped in a lot of ways, but for this it was kind of like, okay, well, we gotta wrap it up and we gotta do the best we can, but overall I think they did a great job, and it's a show that any of us can watch. I mean, my daughter hates Star Trek. She hates Star Trek, and she actually watched the first couple of seasons of Lower Decks and enjoyed it and has a Geordie bear, and so I think this is a good show to introduce new people to the series and possibly get them to watch the older ones. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the not greatest episodes of Lower Decks are still really good episodes. And that's sort of like, I feel like Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, I can say that about. Like, if you force me to do a rating, I'm rating it based on all the other episodes of the show, but that doesn't mean it's not a good episode. I think that's the beauty of Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. I think they got it right in a way that, like, I feel like Picard and Disco, struggled to find their audience in the Star Trek people, because you have to have good storytelling, you have to have heart, you have to have some silliness, some fun. And if you can't get some of all of that in there, if every episode feels like a slog, then like it's a struggle. So I love Lower Decks. I think it's a shame that they decided to cancel it. That you're right, that they probably could have done better with a series finale if they knew it had been coming. And it doesn't seem like a series finale episode. That's kind of why I'm also rating it a little low. It seems like it's going to keep going. Like they didn't close up the storylines in a way that I felt super satisfied with. So
it's not really an all good things, right? Like,
yeah.
like, or even in Voyager, I can't remember their finale episode, but like they came home, like, that it's done, it's over, now into the next chapter.
Like, they didn't even make, so, I mean, the part of the lower decks is that they're lower decks. An ending would be that Ranson would pick a first officer, and in my mind, it would be Mariner, obviously not Boimler, because he's just not ready. And like, to have him make her a first officer would have felt like the ending of the series, because then she's no longer a true lower decker, right? And so like something to finalize it, but they didn't really do that. They couldn't make a decision on it. So
Again, I think they just kind of wanted to keep it open, right? So
right.
they made those decisions. So now I'm going to go into my redhead alert. Okay, guys, so my redhead alert. If you haven't already heard, I had the opportunity to sit down with Gates McFadden. We talked about her podcast, her time on Star Trek, and got to squeeze in a little X-Men. She definitely turned the tables on me by asking about my own family, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. You can find the interview here on my YouTube channel or the audio version on your favorite podcast app. And Trek Talks is just around the corner on January 18th. This telethon benefits the Hollywood Food Coalition, hosted by John Billingsley and Bonnie Gordon, with amazing guest Star Trek guests like David Ajala, Sonequa Martin Green, Doug Jones, Robert Picardo, Nana Visitor, and many more. Follow them on the social media at Trek_Talks, and go to their YouTube and subscribe to their channel at Trek Talks Telethon. And all of their information is at trektalks.net. And do not forget that my Be Kind Like Crusher design that I have at my TeePublic store, all the proceeds of this design will be donated to Trek Talks. And even though season 2 is over, season 3 will be here before you know it. So make sure you like and subscribe on this channel for more Crusher Convo content. You can also listen to all the audio versions of Crusher Convo on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can support the podcast by buying Birch on TeePublic, buying me a coffee, or you become a Patreon member for as low as $3 a month. My Patreon shout-outs go to Chuck and Engineer Mark. Thank you for your support. You could also find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, or TikTok. And of course, all this information can be found at crusherconvo.com. Ooh, I did that and didn't have to cough. I feel like coughing now, though. I do want to take a moment here. That's the wrap. This is my season 2 finale. And I really wanted to take the time and explain why I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Okay. And I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget anything. But a year ago today, Crusher Convo was canceled. I made that joke earlier, but it was really canceled.
Yeah.
But yes, it was by my own doing. Old tweets from 5 to 15 years ago were found, and I was not the nicest person. And weirdly enough, I never thought of myself as such until your hurtful words are staring at you right in the face. I do not condone, nor do I make excuses for my actions. And I lost a lot of people I was close to, and I understand their decision to walk away. But I had some who stuck by me, who believed in me, and who saw that I was not the same person that wrote those hateful words, and trusted in me to continue to change and continue to grow as a person. And like I've said before, that trauma made a huge impact on me on how much this world is hurting. And those people who rallied behind me gave me the encouragement to bring Crusher Convo back. And I decided to do so, but differently. Not just to deep dive the next generation through Beverly's eyes, but deep dive all of Star Trek, because I believe that she represents the best of Trek: hope, compassion, love, and forgiveness. I want to share that and have fun and interact and love everyone I come across. And this season I got to, interview John Billingsley from Enterprise and Stephanie Chakowski from Picard, and, got to talk to Mike McMahon for Lower Decks and Aaron Walke for Prodigy. And of course, I got to talk to Gates, who has been nothing but kind and generous and grateful for the time I've spent gushing about her character. And she has not only been an inspiration for me, but all of you, those who stuck by me, have been an inspiration, and I can never say thank you enough. And please know from the bottom of my heart, I love every single one of you, and I thank you. And I hope I am making you proud, and that season 3 will be nothing but an amazing success. And Marcy, you are one of those people. I am very grateful you're in my life. Same with Green Shirt, Lori from Shrek Movie, and Tim from FSF, and Ro and Danny and all of them. You guys really have been just amazing friends, and I couldn't be more blessed in such a way. And so yeah, I really wanted to say that. And like I said, I hope I'm making you guys proud, and I hope everyone's enjoying the content that I'm doing. Like I said, it's a little different. I'm doing video instead of the audio and stuff, but I'm having fun, and I hope you're having fun with me. So thank you very much. And I thank you, Marcy, for joining me on my final episode of season 2, and just let the listeners know where they can find you.
Sure. Yeah. Before I do that, though, I'm sure I speak for all of your listeners that they really appreciate that you put your heart out there, and you are, it's very vulnerable in that moment. And we all appreciate you, Jesse. And it is a big thing to make those big changes like you talk about. And we should give people space to do that. And I think sometimes in especially social media, like there is that cancel culture, but like recognizing that people can change, and that is what Star Trek and what like we should be doing as a human race, is like helping others to, like, if they do make a decision and do change, to not throw back in their face like so violently. But I get that not everybody can do that, and that's okay, and they need to have their space to walk away if they want. But I appreciate you taking the time to say those words. And we all love you. You're a very good supporter of everyone that you care about. So
I do my best. I do my best.
So if you do want to hear more of me talking too much, then you can listen to me at Idle Ride Podcast or Idle Ride. I'm on any of the podcasting apps that you could find. Just look for Idle Ride. And then my social media is the same handle. So currently I'm reviewing the season of Fallout on Prime, and I have previous seasons of The Last of Us television show and Avatar: The Last Airbender. And our next upcoming show will be Silo on Apple Plus, which is going through its second season right now, but we'll start with the first season.
And as you can see below right there is her handle. I put Instagram, but that's pretty much her handle all over social media. So if that's where you want to find her, she's one of the very cool female gamers out there, and she knows her stuff.
Literally, like every nerd thing that has been done, I'm doing it. I D&D, I game, I watch genre films, like I read, I nerd out on gardens, like everything, like true ADHD.
I love your Instagram. When you have something sprout, you're like, it's so beautiful. Kind of to circle back though real fast, there was one thing that I learned, that even though I did lose people from my life due to what I had done, I learned that they were in my life at that time for the reason, and even though that they're not with me anymore, they still carry a special place in my heart, because I needed them clearly during that time, and they were part of my growth even though they're not here, right? So some I miss very, very much. And again, I just wanted to address that and just make sure that everyone knows that I love every single one of you, and I love talking Trek, and I love that you guys are here and supporting Crusher Convo and doing the best I can. So but yeah, I think that's it. Eric says, thank you for your contributions and happy holidays to everyone. And that is very true. happy holidays,
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you guys celebrate, whatever,
See if I can get my
Trekmas,
thing. There it is again.
Catmas, like whatever. There we go. Whatever you celebrate. So I hope everyone has a wonderful time. And of course, this is where I will end it. Live long and prosper,
Live
guys.
long and prosper, everybody. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.
Crusher out.